Good afternoon. And thank you for all your tremendous support of Apple and for being here with us this week. Personally, I think we're at a watershed. We are going in the industry's direction, and because of advancements we've made in the last year, I believe we are all well positioned for the future. So today, I'd like to tell you how we see that future, the strategy that follows, and most importantly, the platforms we will be providing you and the rich opportunities they offer you. So, let's get started. Earlier you heard from Gil that the Internet is key to Apple's future. Why? Well, for two reasons. First, our publishing technologies make us the industry leader in content creation today and tomorrow, because we're going to extend that lead by making those technologies even better and by applying our experience and ease of use to broaden the audience for web publishing. Number two, equally important, we now have a platform to deliver application services, and it came about through acquiring Next Technologies. And as you might imagine, we're very excited about it. Now let me show you why, and here to help me is Wiley Hodges. Wiley?
Thank you, Ellen. Okay. Now, I've been doing a lot of looking around today, and unfortunately, I didn't get to eat. A lot of demos and stuff. And unfortunately, I didn't get to eat quite as much lunch as I'd like. So, I thought today we're going to buy some pizza. You like pizza?
I like pizza.
Excellent. Well, if we were going to buy a pizza on the internet today, how would we do it?
With a little bit of difficulty.
A lot of difficulty, I think. We'd probably have to search through, find pizza restaurants through some city guide or something like this.
Right.
Eventually, if we find the right place and it's open and it's near us, we might be able to order pizza.
And since we're on stage, we need it here.
We need it here and now and fast.
Okay.
So, we're going to use some application services on the web to take care of this problem for us. I'm going to enter CyberSlice, which is an application built with web objects. First thing we want to do is enter our phone number. Now, I got the phone number for the convention center here, so we'll enter it in, 277-2900. Clicking Go On. It'll bring up an account if I already have one, or if anyone here already has one. Oh, look.
I have one.
What a remarkable thing. So, it turns out Ellen has an account already to order pizza.
I told you I like pizza.
You got one yesterday, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is now go on, because clearly this is you, and this is where we want this pizza delivered.
Right.
And we're going to see what kind of pizza places are near the convention center. So what happens is CyberSlice looks in a geographic information system and correlates our address to delivery zones of different pizza restaurants. Then looks in a database of schedule information for pizza restaurants that have delivery areas that include the convention center, Hall 1.
Okay.
And finally shows us those that are open. So looking at this list, I see three restaurants that I know and love, and Pizza A Go Go is fantastic.
Is it?
We should get that.
All right.
So I click on Pizza A Go Go. Now we go to another database and actually look up different pizza restaurant menus. So we see Pizza A Go Go, we see their logo up here, and we're looking at their specialty pizzas, and I hear some of these are fantastic.
I like pesto.
Do you like pesto?
Yeah.
I hear it's magically delicious. We're going to get the pesto plus pizza. Let me click on that. And clicking on that brings up all the options associated with pesto plus pizza. What are those? Well, we see it's medium for $13.75, large for $18 and feeling peckish. We're going to get the large.
Also good price performance.
Yes, excellent. Just like
yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just take one for now because there's only 4 or 5 of us participating in this. And clicking done.
Hey!
Sorry, pizza.
We can only afford one.
So you see here on our order summary, we've got one pizza on our order, and if I click done over this very frantic guy on the telephone,
yep.
This is kind of the weirdest part. This is tied into the back end of an integrated voice response system. You know those voices that are computer generated?
I know those.
It's going to call the pizza place. They don't even need to have a terminal on the net or anything, and give them the order for our pizza. And they're going to press 1 to respond and say, yes, we got it. So as soon as we say how we're going to pay, and I don't think we're going to show your credit card number right here.
No, I'll pay cash.
We'll pay cash and say submit order. And so now we've submitted an order for pizza, and
Okay.
with any luck, we're going to have some later.
Sounds good to me. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Now, what you just saw were some pretty advanced capabilities. And to zoom in on why, let's look at what happens today with content creation and delivery on the Internet. Now, basically, there's a problem, and you all know it. It's a sea of data and media that we first have to transform into knowledge and then deliver in a way that users can understand. Now, this is hardly new. We have struggled with it forever. But the Internet has exacerbated this problem dramatically by allowing faster and broader access to a body of information that is growing exponentially. Up until now, there's been publishing tools that some of you have created to transform data and media for online delivery. And while they've worked very well, the value add still rests either with the web author, who burns the midnight oil, or with the user, who has to swim through that sea of unorganized content. Happily, there's another solution. And we saw it earlier today in the CyberSlice demo, where we turned data into geography, restaurants, and menu choices, and we turned that into knowledge that we acted upon. But where the amount of effort required by users and authors was substantially reduced because application services assumed much of that burden. So we've got two distinct, though overlapping, areas in which to develop. The first is content creation, whereas the Internet publishing company, Apple, is the recognized leader. A lead, by the way, that we believe will only grow bigger because we're advancing our technologies and promoting our advantages in this area. And the second is in creating products and tools in the application services space. In other words, you now have more choice and more opportunity. In a minute, we'll talk about specifics. But beforehand, here's the gist of our overall strategy. We're going to do everything in our power to give you more development platforms and better development platforms than anyone else in the industry. Some of them are Apple developed, others are Apple enabled. Some are exclusively Macintosh, others are cross-platform. And taken together, I think you'll see some real choice and real opportunity. And while I don't expect you to develop on all the platforms, or maybe even most of them, I do expect you'll see both creative and business opportunities that help all of us to be successful. And by the way, I think that's true whether you're a big developer or a small one, a tool maker or an application builder, or whether your focus is the enterprise, small business, education, consumer, or any other market. So with that as a preface, let's look at these platforms. And here they are. I'll highlight some of the key points about each of them, and then in the breakout sessions, you can drill down even further. So, first of all, the Mac OS. What can I say? It's a great Internet platform and a growing one, because according to Computer Intelligence, contrary to what some people would have you believe, we are in fact growing market share for the Mac OS. Plus, let's remember that there are 27 million Macs out there and a growing number of clones. So the overall installed Mac OS base is well over 50 million people. Furthermore, at the same time, Apple's Internet share has more than held its own. In fact, did any of you read the last survey in WebWeek? Now, two things jumped out at me. The first is that there are more than 60% of professionals use a Mac to publish on the web. And the second is that more than 50% of the total volume of content on the web comes from people using Macintosh. Which means that if we look at the web today, the Mac OS is clearly the market leader in content creation, and will continue to be. Because Mac OS 8, which is about to ship, has built-in features that make it even easier for customers to access the net. It also provides you with some great opportunities. And let's look at a couple of them. And here to show us is Peter Lowe. Peter is hiding back here.
Hi, Ellen. I snuck out early.
Yes. Is the system now running, Peter?
Well, I'll tell you, Ellen, you know, Mac OS 8 Beta 3 isn't quite leading edge enough for me. So I had to go and install MRJ 1.5 Alpha 2. And we are just in the process of booting it as we speak, and there it comes.
Peter, the demo gods cannot let us down now, not in this Internet session.
We've had such good luck all day.
I know.
Well, I just wanted to highlight quickly, you see we have a picture here as a Toronto skyline because I'm Canadian too, eh?
Yes.
I had to get another little bit of a bit in there.
Okay.
So yeah, we want to highlight a variety of different features that macOS have to service the needs of our customers in that Internet space. The first thing I just want to touch on very, very quickly is that we're building into the infrastructure all the tools people need, of course. TCP/IP support and OT/PPP built right into their operating system. But we're also ensuring that people have the facilities they need to get on the internet easily. So we've got an assistance architecture that will step users through the process of getting on the net as easily as possible.
Okay.
We also have a variety of different integration points throughout the user experience. For example, icons right on the desktop for browsing the internet and for your mail. And these tools launch the user's preferred tool for these purposes. So if a user prefers Eudora or Emailer or Netscape, Navigator or Internet Explorer, they'll get the tool that they prefer in every situation. Now, earlier in the day in the keynote, we highlighted a number of different ways in which Java has been integrated into the system.
Right.
And I demonstrated one or two little applets and a fairly significant application. But there's another one that I really, really like that I thought you might like as well. There's been a little bit in the news lately about a chess match that's been going on.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Sponsored by a company I think you might be familiar with,
Right.
actually. And you know, the other day, Garry Kasparov didn't do that great, and he had a bit of a hissy fit after the match. And, you know, I was really kind of curious what went wrong for Garry. So I checked out IBM's website, and sure enough, they have a Java-based application that allows you not only to monitor the match while it was on, but actually go back, take a look at the match, see all of the commentary, and actually step through the entire process. Yeah, I'm not sure you can take back moves, though.
Okay.
That'd be a bit too much, yeah. So as I said, we're using MRJ 1.5, an alpha version. And we also have the just-in-time compiler installed on the system as well. So we see a really significant jump in the performance associated with Java on Mac OS as well.
Right.
And you can see with this little application, we're able to step through the entire match, all 19 moves of it. It wasn't that long a match, evidently. And this is a really nice example of how Java can be used in sort of a conventional client-server way to have a local software running talking to a back end. But with Apple's implementation of Java, you can actually just run the applet right off the internet as well without having to load down your system with your entire browsing environment.
Right.
Now, the other thing that we demonstrated a little bit earlier today was our support for personal web sharing, which is integrated into Mac OS 8. And I showed this fairly lame little website that my family and I have set up. The nice thing about our integrated web sharing is it behaves just as you'd expect, like any other website. So you can do some content creation, create links as you would expect. Of course, follow links to other websites anywhere on the internet. Moving forward with this product, we're going to be extending it fairly significantly with CGI support and WebStar extensions moving forward. But the other thing we wanted to highlight is that not all users, of course, want to be web publishing professionals. Not everybody's comfortable with the latest Adobe or Claris products. Some people simply want to share information with their colleagues. And to that end, we've created a feature called Personal Net Finder. With Personal Net Finder, all I have to do is select any folder on my hard drive, and instead of selecting a default HTML document for my home page, I specify none. And that enables this Personal Net Finder feature. And then when I connect to my site and when I clear the cache, instead of getting a rendered HTML document, what I get is a listing of the files and the folders in the folder that I targeted to share. So what this means is we've really extended personal file sharing, and now we've extended it to Internet Standard Protocols.
Okay.
And anybody can connect to a Mac OS system from any platform as long as you have a standard browser. And of course, people can click on any link to download files, or they can click on folders to navigate through the system. And of course, we support all the various media types. So for example, if I click on a QuickTime movie, exactly what you would expect. Here I have a fast start movie, and it starts to download, and we can go ahead and play that movie, just as you'd expect. So again, as we mentioned earlier, we've got a full suite of internet services for novice users to advanced users, and over the coming weeks, we're going to be announcing also how Mac OS 8 is actually going to provide a rich set of information services that take advantage of the internet infrastructure that we're providing.
Okay. That's really super. Thanks very much. That worked very well. As Peter mentioned, personal web sharing and NetFinder show how we're broadening the audience of content creators. while things like Java and the Marimba tuner readies the Mac OS for application services like push technology. In the future, both Apple Share IP and personal web sharing will support the WebStar API, which means you'll have a way to build products for these new content creators. Now, they're not the only things happening for the Internet in Mac OS. We're also collaborating with Midas, the Macintosh Internet Developers Association, to provide a high-level Internet API that many of you have been asking for. Its code name is Subwoofer. And what Subwoofer does is allow you to add things like FTP access, get URL, and a host of other Internet services without having to build them from the protocol up. So if that interests you, be sure to attend the Internet Services Breakout on Thursday afternoon to find out more. Now, what about Java? Well, we've taken some giant steps forward. For instance, as you've heard, Mac OS 8 will ship with integrated Java support. Plus, what you didn't hear is that our JIT compiler will be available this summer. And as you can see in this chart, a recent benchmark marked it as the fastest on the platform. And finally, not only will support for JDK 1.1 be seeded later this month and released in the fall, but we are committed to syncing up with Sun's JDK releases. And we're working closely with Sun to make sure that happens. The bottom line, though, is that we're working very, very hard to make Mac OS a world-class Java platform. And we'll continue to develop, support, and promote technologies that make it easier to deploy Java on the Mac OS. Okay, that's the Mac OS. Now what about the other platforms? We've already heard about Rhapsody, and you'll hear more later on. But let's look at the yellow box in terms of the Internet capabilities that it gives to you. And let's start with a little background. As you may know, NeXTSTEP was designed from the ground up to be network-centric. In fact, the World Wide Web was actually created on NeXTSTEP by Tim Berners-Lee at CERN in the early 90s. So given that, it's no surprise that Rhapsody is a great Internet development platform for both content creation and application services. After all, the yellow box APIs are cross-platform. You just write an Internet application once and deploy it across Rhapsody, Mac OS, NT, and Windows 95. Plus, the yellow box technologies, such as memory protection, threading, and a native file system, make Rhapsody a great server platform that allows you to create robust server solutions. And beyond that, it's a whole lot easier to develop applications that use back-end databases, because the yellow box framework allows transparent access of data to your application. Now let's talk about integrating Internet services into one of your applications. Does the yellow box help? Of course. In fact, it lets you integrate those services quickly, easily, and at virtually no cost. For instance, adding HTML services to your applications means maybe a couple of minutes of work. And furthermore, those services are extensible by anyone. Right, Wiley?
Why, yes.
Why, yes.
The long run. Okay, we're here taking a look.
How's our pizza doing?
You know, I didn't check. I have
Okay.
confidence, though, that we will see pizza very soon.
All right.
We're taking a look again at OpenStep 4.2. We're in the developer environment, and this is the interface builder. Now we've seen, you know, John and Ken and some other people build applications in the interface builder, so I'll probably skip the, you know, you can hook a slider to a text field
Yeah, we've
and
seen
get
that
a
a couple
number.
times
Well,
today. Mhm.
Yeah. What if you could build something
Real
really cool? Well, it turns out that inside the WebObjects development team, we've had the need to edit HTML and view HTML and provide HTML services in the application WebObjects Builder. And to do this, we extended the text framework in OpenStep to include the ability to parse HTML and read it and render it, as well as let developers edit it. And in doing that, one of our developers had a brainstorm. You know, using this same HTML text object, you could very easily create applications to read in HTML of your own.
Sounds right.
And so what I wanted to do was show you the fruits of some of that effort. Here amongst the palettes that we have in Interface Builder, we've added one, which is a web palette. And I can go here and create a new application and drag and drop this HTML text view onto my application window. Drag, drop, resize. I can also just pull off some very ordinary interface elements. I've got a combo box that we provide for basically entering data and showing lists of data. And we're going to use this to enter URLs and also show the list of visited sites. And then I have a button matrix here that just contains 2 buttons that have been nicely canned with icons for forward and back arrows.
Right.
So we've got all the elements. Now let's wire them together and build an application. To do that, first of all, I'm going to send messages from this text field to the HTML view here that will tell it to take the URL from it. So drag, drop. The inspector comes up and tells me I want to make a connection. And we're going to say take the URL string from that field and put it into our browser.
Okay.
I also need to get the forward and back buttons wired up, and that's pretty easy. Actually, one more step. I'm going to go from this view here and say I want to, no, not connect it to itself, but connect it to this combo box, and it's going to become our list of visited sites. Now I want to connect the buttons here to the HTML viewer, and we'll connect the forward button to the view, not the, there we go, to the go forward action.
Okay.
We'll connect the back button to the go back action. And then so we can highlight or unhighlight the buttons depending on whether there are forward or backward selections. We'll also have the view send information back to the buttons. To do that, we just drag to the button and say this one is the forward button and this one is the back button. So we built an application, put it into test interface mode in Interface Builder, and this is actually now a running, working web browser. Let me go to my favorite website. Can you guess what that might be?
How about apple.com?
Okay, apple.com.
I was going to mention something else, but I didn't think it was a good idea.
None of that. Okay, so you can tell this is real because it's taking a little bit of time. We didn't cache anything because we're building the app on the fly. But now we've loaded in the web page that is the Apple homepage. We're going to render the images in a second. And we can now navigate around the Apple site and see information about other great Apple products. Any minute now. So as we're waiting for this to render,
They're all used to this.
live internet demos.
You could ask the people to stop hitting the apple.com site.
Yeah. If any of you on your PowerBooks are connected with
We shut
wireless
them
modems.
down.
Okay, we have a little bit of a problem there. But why don't we actually navigate over to another site? We can look at information, for instance, on the PowerBook 2400, the great new ultralight notebook, or actually my very favorite page on here just because it looks so beautiful is the PowerBook 1400.
All right.
You've seen the PowerBook site? It's gorgeous. So we'll come in here to powerbook.apple.com. See it loads in the images in the background.
Right.
We got a web browser.
Right.
And
We
that's all
do.
it took.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So as you can see, the yellow box makes it easy for you to integrate Internet services. And as a result, Internet integration can be pervasive across all yellow box applications. The yellow box also has built-in support for Corba and IIOP, which means that with 2 additional lines of code, any object in your application can become a distributed object and take advantage of those services. Plus, the yellow box has tremendous support for Java. Integration between Rhapsody's runtime and Java's runtime is very, very tight. And you'll be able to access all the yellow box native services from Java, which means that you'll be able to write yellow box applications entirely in the Java language. So given that, I think you'll see that the Java and the Rhapsody story is very compelling. I encourage you to attend 2 breakouts later this week to get more details. Now, what about scalability? Well, let's say you create a small database application on the web today, and it becomes incredibly popular. Great. But now you need to support more hits, and you'll probably want to add new services. That's where the yellow box scalability saves you time and money. Because with all the code reuse, and there's a high degree of it, you can extend the reach of your application without rebuilding it and without re-architecting it. Now let's look at WebObjects, which is yet another powerful environment for developing your web applications. But what is WebObjects? I'd now like to invite Larry Slotnick, Vice President of Internet and Enterprise Product Engineering, to tell us more about it. Larry?
Ellen, thank you.
Welcome back to Apple.
Thank you. Thank you. Really feels great to be back at Apple after being away a while. Some of you may remember me from my years at Claris as the Vice President of Product Development. In the past couple of years, since we saw some cataclysmic change at the top of Apple, I've been at Auxtel Communications developing products, voicemail products for the enterprise. And one of the things that I've really learned developing products for the enterprise is that selling to IS departments and large corporate accounts is a very significant and very different kind of a business model than the things that we've done in the past at Apple and at Claris. Those IS departments tend to be indecisive. They tend to be large and unwieldy and conservative in their decision making, and it's a different approach for how you want to actually deliver your products to them. I think it's something that we all have to bear in mind, and it's an opportunity for us to really capitalize on with the merger of Next and Apple. So let's talk about WebObjects. Well, first of all, I'd like to talk about my organization. A few months ago, with the Next merger, we saw an opportunity to combine two very talented teams. The Next team that was the team developing WebObjects as well as Enterprise Objects Framework, something you're going to hear quite a bit about today and the rest of the week. And at Apple, we had the team developing Apple Share IP as well as CyberDog. Many of you remember CyberDog, and Internet Services Libraries for the Mac OS. So by combining the teams, we felt we had an opportunity to do something distinctly different and to really capitalize on the strengths of both enterprise and Internet expertise. We decided to call the combined teams the Internet and Enterprise Products Group, and I'm pleased to share with you that I've been asked to lead it. So my team and I have a proposition for you, the developer community on the Mac. And that proposition is quite simple. We'd like to deliver the best developer tools and system services enabling you to easily build, deploy, and manage scalable custom business solutions for the web. I think that's a pretty major undertaking. It's certainly an ambitious one, and it's one that I'm extremely motivated about doing, and explains why I chose to return to Apple. So now let's talk about WebObjects. WebObjects is an open, server-based development platform for developing dynamic web applications. And what do we mean by dynamic? Well, we mean applications that where the content is in constant flux. And if the content is in constant flux, you need an application that's going to help you manage the change dynamically. That's your WebObjects is your product. The content integration management subsystems within WebObjects will do that for you, independent of data type. WebObjects will handle your multimedia. It'll handle your data, relational database data of a variety of different forms, and your applications as data or as objects, effectively. Now, the relational database piece is quite interesting. Enterprise Objects Framework enables a transparent view of any of various databases on the back end, Informix, SQL, ODBC-based databases, Sybase. You set up a model in Enterprise Objects Framework, and it automatically manages the complexity, manages the transactions, and lets you think about solving the problem that you're there for, which is your customer's problem and your business. Your end users will access your product through standard browser environments, and the product is, as you've heard in many sessions so far today, multi-platform. A lot of times we've been using the term cross-platform, but really the more accurate term, I believe, is multi-platform because of the many and various platforms on which the product runs, all the products run, the OpenStep products. They're also, WebObjects is language neutral. You can write in C, C++, Java, of course, Objective-C, and WebObjects script. And we provide the bindings to make it all just work. It's scalable as well as customizable. There are a number of websites out on that you can visit yourself today and see WebObjects in action. One of those is Disney. There's also Club Med, Family.com, and as Avi mentioned this morning, there's the Dell computer site. I recommend that you go look at that site if you want to get a sense of the scalability and the customization possible with WebObjects. If many of you may recall a story recently in Business Week about Dell and how they entirely transformed their business on the basis of their ability to be responsive to web-based order processing, and that the product that they used to do that was WebObjects. WebObjects, by virtue of it being object-oriented, provides for component reuse. There are many different kinds of objects within the WebObjects environment. Application objects are an interesting one because of the nature of objects, of course. It includes both the methods as well as the data. and the WebObjects system manages the complexity for you. We also have a notion of pages, web pages, and page fragments. And those page fragments are a means by which you can actually deliver a much higher degree of customization. You can actually construct your web pages on the fly on the basis of either how your end user navigates your website or data that actually resides in your back-end database. By compartmentalizing the complexity, you get to a point where the granularity of your objects is sensible, practical for the kinds of products you build, and you'll be able to reuse them quite easily. The data-driven solutions refers to, of course, the ability to manage the character of your application on the basis of content on the back end. I'd like to invite Wiley Hodges back one more time. He's sure a busy guy today. He's going to demonstrate Go Live for us in their Cyber Studio product. Wiley?
Thanks, Larry. One of the very exciting things about WebObjects is that beyond just providing tools for people like enterprise and corporate developers to build applications, it really does provide a platform on which other people can build applications, and in fact, a platform to which other people can build tools. I think one of the most exciting examples of that is Go Live Cyber Studio, which I have running here on the Mac. Actually, this is Netscape Navigator. Let's bring up Go Live Cyber Studio. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Cyber Studio, it's, I think, one of the premier HTML editing and site management environments. It's kind of like if you mix Quark Express and BBEdit together for the web. It's fantastic. And these guys at Go Live saw WebObjects and I think were pretty excited, and they wanted to bring the ability to develop WebObjects applications to the Macintosh. And they've done that through Cyber Studio. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hit a web page. We've got a server backstage running WebObjects. So webobjects.smgevents.com.
Can't say it as fast as John.
Oh, yeah. And this one, we're actually resurrecting one of our favorite old demos, just for old time's sake. It's the Dodge demo. Any WebObjects fan out there will know it very well.
Now, 1997.
Yeah, this is actually out of date in all kinds of ways. And in fact, I've been messing with the Dodge demo a little bit, and it's got some problems. As you see here, we've got some form elements that would let us select cars and prices, how we can sort what we return through our browser, and a number of other little elements like this link here to Next Software. We need to fix this. I think I want to update the link so we point to Apple, for one thing. And also, click as hard as I might, I can't do anything yet because there's no way to submit the data to the server. So I'm going to go into Cyber Studio and actually open this very same application over an Apple Share connection. So we say File, Open, and go to my desktop, to my WebObjects server, and go into the Dodge application. And we're actually looking at the default entry point, which is a page called Main. And we can open the component by opening its HTML document for now. So what comes up in Cyber Studio is basically what we saw previously in Netscape, only we want to do some editing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to the window that they provide of palettes. And they've been providing for a while a lot of different HTML elements and things like that. Now they've added to that mix WebObjects components. So I can go here and take, for instance, the Submit button for WebObjects, drag and drop it, and then I can bring up a window that they call the Inspector. This will let me view and modify the attributes of this item. One thing I want to have is a label, and I want it to say, I don't know, how about display cars? The other thing I need to have is an action, and I happen to know the action in the server is also display cars. So we've changed that, we've wired it up. The other thing here is that we see there's a web object for the footer on our page called footer. I'm going to quickly open that up and modify it just slightly so that instead of showing us the next logo, we're actually going to change that to something different. So look at the footer element. Maybe I'll select this and change it to Apple. And we can also change the link inside here. There, that's fast. And finally, we'll change the image location. So we'll go from the Powered by WebObjects logo to something else I have here on the server. Should look familiar to some people. It says Mave of the Mac. So save both the documents, go back to Netscape, and we should have a running application that's changed. All I need to do is hit reload. This is a running live application on the web, and you'll see now that the changes have taken place. We now see the MacSpen logo, you see the reference to the Apple site, and if I say I want to sort these by type or by model, we should see, I think, Avengers first on the list of cars that get returned from the server. Voila.
You've been here a while, a number of times. Thank you, Wiley.
Thank you.
So if, let me ask you a question, Wiley.
Yes.
We heard about blue dots in the detergent earlier today. Would it be fair to characterize WebObjects as being a washing machine running at 220 volts.
Sure. I think that's a great comparison.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, let's talk about developer opportunities briefly before we go back to Ellen. Obviously, we have many chances here to build applications that are online. The online capability is one that will appeal to many of you, in particular if you have an application that perhaps has a seasonality to its data. Take, for example, an accounting application or a taxation application where you currently have to re-release your product every time you want to get a seasonal version out the door. You have to go through a full test cycle and all the various and sundry issues related to doing that, modifying content and so forth. With a WebObjects-based version of that content managed by WebObjects itself, you'd be able to simply revise the content and leave your functionality components untouched. This is what we refer to as webifying your application. The framework for WebObjects is also extremely extensible, as we saw recently with TipTop Software when they did a Perl scripting plugin to WebObjects. This is a very interesting addition to the family of capabilities within the WebObjects genre, I guess we could say. So the question is, how do you deploy? Well, you can deploy for free, as you heard this morning on the yellow box. There's going to be a competitive pricing strategy for the toolset, for the WebObjects toolset, including EOF, announced during the summer timeframe. And I need to say one more thing, and that's you don't actually have WebObjects in your backpack, but there is one demo I'd like to do. I don't have a backpack with me, but if you open your backpack, pull out the booklet, the collection of booklets, the Prelude to Rhapsody booklets, you'll find a packet of CDs in there. Flip through the CDs, you'll find the last CD is actually a coupon. You need to redeem that coupon tomorrow in order to get a copy of WebObjects for that environment. It'll explain it when you look there. So that's all I have to say. You'll be hearing a lot more exciting things coming out of my department. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Ellen.
When you said that it's going to be competitive pricing, did you mean lower?
Yes. Very good.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, so let's talk about Java. There are two parts to Apple's Java story. The first part is Apple's commitment to the 100% pure Java initiative. Now, obviously, 100% pure Java is great for you because you can write applications once and they will run anywhere, which is why we're integrating it into both the Mac OS and Rhapsody so that they'll be world-class Java platforms. Furthermore, we'll support both JFC and AFC to make sure they're fully functional on our platforms. And to help you find out more about both of them, we've invited both JavaSoft and Microsoft to participate in a session on Friday afternoon. Please go to find out which framework will best meet your needs. Now, another way we're supporting 100% pure Java is through our sponsorship of Key Labs. And as you probably know, Key Labs is a 100% pure Java certification program that's sanctioned by Sun. And how it works is this. You develop a 100% pure Java application. You send it to Key Labs, and for a fee, they'll test it. And part of that test is running your Java app on a Macintosh test suite. If your app passes the test, you'll get the right to use a 100% pure Java logo for marketing purposes. Now, there's another point about Java that I'd like to make. It's that we're working closely with Sun to make sure that the Mac OS and Rhapsody are world-class Java platforms. We think there's tremendous benefits for Sun, for Apple, and for you. So we're actively collaborating with Sun. It's going very well, and it's a great way to help us bring 100% pure Java to both the Mac OS and Rhapsody in a world-class manner. Now, earlier I said there were two parts to Apple's Java story. The first is Apple's support of 100% pure Java. As I told you, that doesn't fit every developer's needs. Some of you need to support native code in your Java applications. So the second part of the story is what we're doing to provide native services. For instance, we're providing Java bindings to the entire Yellowbox and WebObjects APIs. And with JDirect, we're providing access to the Mac OS toolbox in a future version of MRJ. And together, they should help you to create great Java solutions. Of course, some of you already are. Now let's take a look at one of your apps, which is Wired Write from JStream. And here to lead us through it is Apple's Mac OS Java evangelist, Sean Pruden. Sean?
Thanks, Ellen. What I'd like to show today is a publishing application. It's actually a native Macintosh application. It's called Wired Write from JStream. And what they're trying to do is address three barriers they feel to publishing on the web today. One is accessing legacy information and being able to take that and publish it out on the web. Another is being able to manipulate it within the publishing environment. And then the third one is distribution. So I want to show you how they're addressing all three areas in this. First of all, let's take a look at accessing legacy data. I have a book that I started, and it's going to be a combination of a number of different documents that I'm going to pull together and then generate it out the back end in 100% pure Java. So I already have MetroWorks Pascal reference manual, which some of you might be familiar with. I'm going to insert into this a splash screen that I've created. Right now they're supporting RTF, but by the time this product ships later this summer, they'll be supporting all the DataViz translators as well, so you'll be able to get access to all the documents that you already have and make them available on the web in a really simple way. So you'll notice across the top that there are full word processing capabilities in this application, but what we're going to do is just manipulate some content that we already have. One of the things that Wired Write lets you do is create hot links between the different documents within a book. So I'm going to quickly create a hot link between our splash screen here by marking this as a source so that we open to the splash screen. And then when I click on it, I want it to take me to the top of the Pascal reference manual. So I'm just going to open that quickly and create a target link at the very top of the manual right here.
Okay.
So if I create a target link, I give it a name, and then there's a hyperlink window that I can use to wire up one-to-many relationships between these things. So between Splash and the Pascal reference manual, I want to set the link. It shows me down here all the different links that I have. So some hyperlink capabilities, very easy to add in here as a publisher of content. The other thing that they let you do, which I think is the most powerful piece of Wired Write, is the ability to manipulate the styles that come in the documents that you've created. Here we've pulled in these RTF documents, and you'll notice that in this Pascal manual there's a number of different styles that are already in there that you can create new styles, you can manipulate them, and you can add some new functionality. Here's the standard kinds of things that you would recognize from probably a word processor or something. But what they've done is some interesting things in terms of table of contents. So if I pick a style, you'll notice down here that it can have a level from a table of contents associated with it. So I've already gone through before and created different styles for our header, or different levels of table of contents for our headers, so that if we were to automatically generate a table of contents, all the header information from the entire document would flow through into a table of contents.
Right, okay.
One of the other things we'll see later when I do a search with the end document in Java is that style information is reused to do contextual searches, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. One of the other things they're going to add, it's not in the product right now, it's just in alpha, but by the time it ships this summer, they're going to be doing two extra things to the style information, which I think is really exciting. They call it adding intelligence to the content. They're going to allow you to apply to a style metering information, so you'll be able to do pay-per-view documents, where you generate one Java document, and depending on the transaction that the user has done, it only displays the part that they've paid for. Another thing you'll be able to do is apply security levels to the content. So again, you can distribute one document, and then based on your security level, you'll be able to see different parts of it. The other thing they're going to do in a future version is allow you to actually attach Java logic to any of the styles as well. So because the end vehicle, what you're distributing is a 100% pure Java document, you'll be able, as a publisher, to add Java logic to any of these styles and have really intelligent content out at the back end, which is really cool. So let's now take a look at one more thing in terms of what you can do as a publisher. In the JPress area, we can actually wrap text. So I'll show you when we get out to the back end what that means, but what you're generating, because it's a Java program at the other end, is a live text stream. So when I say it to wrap, we'll be able to resize this, and instead of just static text on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, it'll actually reflow live. So let's take a look at that. Now I've finished my publishing aspect of it. I want to actually generate out the Java for the back end. So I've been doing all this so far on a Macintosh application. The second part they wanted to address is ease of distribution. So we are going to crank this out into Java, and it's easy as saying, let's generate this JPress. I want to make sure that it opens to my splash screen. I'm going to put it in a folder up here at the top level, and away we go. It's taking these RTF documents and, in the future, DataViz translated documents and creating this book in 100% pure Java. In fact, JStream was the first company to be certified as a 100% pure Java application. a few weeks ago at Java 1. So there we are, it's finished. I'm going to hide wired write, and I'm going to go out here and show you that it has actually created all of the Java classes that you need to run this on a VM. In the final version, it will support JDK 1.1 and create this as a jar file, so it will be double-clickable. They also support something called JManager. JManager lets a Macintosh application support Java applets directly inside of it. So as a publisher, I can preview this Java document that I'm creating right within the wired write application. But I thought it would be more interesting to show it running in the applet viewer, which is what the end user experience would be when they receive this document out the back end. So here we have our splash screen running in this viewer that we've automatically generated. I click on it, it takes me to our Pascal reference page. Built into this document now is the viewer itself that knows how to render these documents, and it has built-in contextual finds, which I talked about before. Right. When I click on a find, it's whipping through this 73-page document and finding these thousands of references to the word Pascal quickly. What we find down here is a reference to what section of the book this actually belongs to. And remember, we talked about the level in the table of contents before. What it's actually doing is finding the word Pascal, looking back in the document for the last level that belonged to a table of content, and then displaying that text over here in the search mechanism. So you notice how fast that was as well. And the other really great part about this is the documents are very, very tiny. So I don't know if you saw back in the original wired write application back in this window, this original document was over 10.5 megabytes big. The resulting JPress document that comes out 100% pure is a 311K document. That's impressive. Including a 70K viewer that is the Java piece that actually renders it on the fly. Right. They're seeding it right now, www.jstream.com. They really want your feedback. Thanks very much.
That's super. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ella.
Okay, let me summarize this section by reiterating both our support for Java and our commitment to helping you develop with Java, whether you choose to implement 100% pure Java or native applications. Okay, the last development environment I want to highlight is Apple's QuickTime Media Layer, and QuickTime in particular. And as you know, QuickTime gives you powerful capabilities for both creating and delivering web content. It's supported by all the major browsers through Apple's QuickTime plugin for the operating systems that you see on the slide. And it's the most popular way to deliver video on the net today as well as tomorrow, because we're continuing to move it forward aggressively. So with that as an intro, here's Peter Hottie to take us through some demos. Peter?
Thanks. What I'm going to do today is show you a little bit about what we're doing with QuickTime on the internet. Even before Apple did anything, happens to me all the time, even before we did anything at Apple to support QuickTime on the internet, lots of people were putting QuickTime movies on the internet. Why were they doing it? Because QuickTime is the best way to distribute digital video. It can be viewed on any platform, Macintosh, Windows, Unix. So they were putting QuickTime up there because it was convenient. The only bad thing was you had to wait for the movies to download before you could see them. So the first thing we did in our plugin was make it so that you didn't have to wait. So even though this movie is still downloading, I can play it. I have full QuickTime interactivity. This is something that we shipped simultaneously for Macintosh and Windows over a year ago, though most people, for some strange reason, still think it's only available for Macintosh.
We were the first to do anything like this.
Yes. So we sort of looked at this and said, streaming QuickTime movies is great, but the web is really it's really much more about text and images. It's becoming more dynamic. There's more animated content in there. But pictures are really a very important part of what the web is. And so we have this great technology as part of the media layer called QuickTime VR, which lets you take photographs and embed them and look around that photograph. The problem was VR didn't stream. So we've recently added streaming to VR. So what I get at first is a low-resolution version of the image, sort of like a progressive JPEG. But if I wait, what you'll see is more data arrives, and I get a higher resolution version of the image.
Keeps getting better.
Just gets better. So it encourages people to spend more time at your web page. They get a low-resolution preview of what you're doing, and if they wait, they spend more time, it gets better. They get a nicer view. And it's not intrusive. It's like a photograph on the page, so it's not dancing around the screen and confusing and annoying you. Yeah, exactly. So we sort of looked at this some more and we thought, gee, pictures, what a great thing. So we had this old picture we had lying around, And we thought, gee, this picture's nice, but again, what can we do that's not obtrusive to sort of make the picture a little bit more real? And so for about the same data size, we have the QuickTime movie here that's just one frame. We've added about 100 bytes extra to the picture, and it's doing this water effect rendered in real time. It takes the exact same amount of time to download as the picture you saw before, but the web page is much more interesting. The web page also picks up something else, which is it's a little bit more interactive too, because I can actually check in water. So what's nice here is it's a technology that's very easy to see how you would use. You're not going to have to learn tons of new things to take advantage of this. And what I'd like to do now is show you, in fact, how we can do some animations with QuickTime. As I said, animation's important. Animated GIF, I think, has changed the web more in the last 2 years than any other technology that's out there. We've seen it again and again during the demos today. One thing about animated GIFs is they have quite a bit of limitations. They're only 8-bit color. They are only good for small animations. And just in general, they aren't the ideal format. Something people may not realize, you do, because you've been coming to the Developers Conference for years, but not everyone knows that QuickTime has an animation engine built into it. What I've got here is one of the most popular products for authoring animation, Macromedia Director. What I'm going to do now is export this Director animation to a QuickTime movie. Now, if I do that using the traditional method in Director, and I say export, we will be here for about the next half hour, and I will get a file out that's 2.1 megabytes. This will not be very practical for web distribution.
Or for this demo.
Or for this demo. So what I'm going to do is use a QuickTime Sprite exporter. This is something that we've created, that Apple Computer has created. It's available now for free download from our website. And I'm just going to say OK, and you'll see what we do is scan the score, and we convert this into a QuickTime format using QuickTime Sprite technology. So I'm just going to quit. I've got this movie. I'll just open it up and show you that it's the exact same animation you saw in Director playing inside of Movie Player. I can play it really fast or backwards or whatever. But the thing, it's not 2.1 megabytes. It's 191K. So we're getting better. That's getting closer to what you might think about using on the web, but maybe still not quite there. Something, though, that we like to say about QuickTime is when you bring media into QuickTime, it actually gets better. We can do things with it that you couldn't do in the original application. So you can see here the cast from Director, all my sprites. What I'd like to do is take this 3D model. This is being rendered with QuickDraw 3D, another technology from the QuickTime Media Layer, and I'd like to replace the QuickTime logo with this model. So all I'm going to do is drag this here over to the logo, let go, and with a little bit of luck, what I get is a spinning 3D model in my movie. Now what's nice about this, a couple things. One, I'm integrating 3D and QuickTime together. This 3D model is only 9K. So I'm not adding something huge. It's the same size as a bitmap would have been. I'm not making my movie bigger, but I'm making it more animated. So say I wanted to deliver this to the web, I would save this. Let me just do that. And now I've got this movie. The problem is it's still really a little bit too big for my taste. 200K, it's going to take people a while to download. QuickTime 3.0 also supports something we call data compression. So I'm going to drop this on a little application we call Compress Me to Death. And it will grind away on it for a little bit, applying some compression technology. And instead of now having a movie that's 191K or 200K with the 3D model, I have something that's 78K. So I've brought that way down from the original 2.2 megabytes down to 78K. Now the drag about compression is usually pretty slow to decompress. And what we've done is used a real-time compression algorithm, decompression algorithm. So it's decompressing each frame as it comes in. So I don't have to wait for the decompression. It just happens. So it's completely transparent. So this is a nice way to create animations using powerful tools you're familiar with, like Director, use them in QuickTime, and enhance them with other media layer technologies, such as QuickDraw 3D. Now, doing all of this on a Macintosh is, of course, the best way to do this. But there are other platforms out there.
So we've been told.
And so you've got to make sure if you're going to create this content that people can use it anywhere. So let's walk way down the stage and take a look at a Windows machine. So I've got this same movie which we created earlier over here on Windows NT, also running QuickTime 3.0. Now play it and you'll see the animation is the same and 3D is the same. QuickTime Media Layer technologies are available for Macintosh and Windows. So QuickDraw 3D, QuickTime, all here, same capabilities. We'll deliver these simultaneously later this year. Final thing I'd like to show you is in Netscape Navigator. Again, talking about images and animated GIFs. The thing that we sort of noticed is people use animated GIFs to put a picture on their web page. And they use image maps so that you'll have a menu that's graphical that you can click on. But you can't have an image map which is an animated GIF, and have it be very interesting. This is a QuickTime movie I'm running here. It's using sprites, and because the sprites can have URLs associated with them, when I click on them, I go to a web page.
That's really super. Try the Motorola one just for completion here.
Let's see if we can get Motorola. There we go. So what's nice here, again, is using a simple tool like Director, something you're probably familiar with, you can add very easily some capabilities, URL linking to your animations, and things with very small data sizes. So these are things that you can take advantage of immediately. You know you'll be able to deliver them to Macintosh. You know you'll be able to deliver them to Windows users. And you know that they'll work and look the same wherever those go. So we'll be talking a lot more about QuickTime 3.0 during the conference, especially keynote Thursday morning at 8:30 if you can wake up. So I encourage you to come and find out more. Thanks.
Super. Thanks very much, Peter. Okay, so let's summarize for a moment. We've talked about how we plan to extend our leadership in the content creation realm. We've talked about the spectrum of new and continuing platforms that we're creating and that we are supporting, namely the Mac OS, Rhapsody, the Yellow Box, WebObjects, Java, and QTML. We've talked about how we are well positioned for the future. But what is the bottom line? It's this. Apple helps you create Internet opportunities, lots of them in lots of different areas. And so let's take a look at the slide. And remember that when we looked at the opportunities presented by an application services model, that gave us a process view, but it's hard to translate that to market opportunities. So let's map the application services model to this view of the Internet. For instance, today you have a browser, but in the future, web-enabled applications will be accessing content, which is what we mean by the client on this graph. Now, the content bar is the number of desktops involved in Internet publishing, and it's followed by developers of web applications and by servers used to deploy these solutions. So what you see are 4 areas in which you can be creative and make money. Now, some of you play in just one of these areas. Some of you are in more than one, and Apple, of course, plays in all of them, with varying degrees of market presence, as you can see in this graphic. Now, everything we've talked about in this session, in fact, Apple's entire Internet strategy, is designed to boost both your opportunities and our market share. We don't expect that increase to be uniform, but in your main development areas, we're expecting substantial growth, and we'll support that growth any way we can. In particular, we're doing it by leveraging our strength in the content authoring space and by providing the new Internet platforms that we've talked about today. In turn, I strongly encourage you to support the Internet in your current and future applications, to use WebObjects or to extend it, to incorporate Java, to use the great new features in QTML, and finally, to begin planning for your next generation of applications using the Yellow Box. I truly believe we're entering new and better times. And as we roll into the next century, we'll see the Internet become as ubiquitous as the phone or the TV. We'll see tens of millions of people publishing on the net. We'll see Apple emerge as the acknowledged leader in providing, supporting, and integrating the world's very best Internet technologies. We'll see your continued leadership as the most creative developers in the world. And finally, we'll see business opportunities that are beyond the bounds of today's imagination. Oh, thank you very much. I was wondering where that pizza was. Thanks a lot.
Others demo, and we deliver.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.
Okay.
And here's your money then.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for your support of Apple, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks.